Okay, we're going to do another Saturn conjunct Jupiter video. I've got a lot of new subs and I got a lot of new questions coming down the pipe about this. So I'm going to try to go over it as comprehensively as I can. In alchemy, big magic when Saturn meets Jupiter, when the two become one. Saturn and Jupiter meet about every 18 to 20 years. And it sets the stage for the next generation. It's also an exceptional time for us personally. When Saturn and Jupiter meet, you're talking about spirit and flesh. It is life. It's when that breath of life is breathed in to Adam, literally. A Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. So it is very important in alchemy. It is the number one thing in astrology. The Catholics, all of their iconography is constantly representing the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction when they hold up the two fingers. The middle finger and the index finger in palmistry represent Saturn and Jupiter. You'll see them put their two fingers together and then kiss and blow the kiss at you. It is a very special time, but we're not told about this. We don't know how to prepare for it. We don't know what it's about. So I'm going to try to walk you through it because they have told us all of this. It's just we failed to see the truth. I'm going to start with Twin Peaks. Because this is where they first told us about this. When Saturn and Jupiter meet, the door to the Black Lodge opens. And this all begins to happen. I'll see you again in 25 years. They're telling us the little red man going into the subconscious mind, the door to the Black Lodge. This is so important, they're repeating this series. It seems very cheesy on the surface, but if you were to read the script without all of the visual that they show us, then, which is the profane, they make it very sexual, they bring all the drama into it, and a lot of these characters are representations of the other planets. And the constellations, their temperaments, their characteristics. Literally, everything about this show is about a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. All of it. We are at the time of red and white, between Pisces and Aquarius. So you see this theme being played out. And they're so serious about it that they brought it back right on time for another Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. So you can watch the Twin Peaks or the Return so that you can understand and get the metaphors behind what they're saying. Everything has an esoteric and an exoteric meaning. So you need to understand always in the movies, and even in your books, there are two different storylines going on. And it's the same with astrology. It's the same with religion. All religious books are astrology books, but there's two different stories going on. One that's given to the masses, they call religion. And then the other, that is the true astronomy, astrology, cosmology, the way this thing works. So when we talk about a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, they are really trying to mislead the public in every way possible. Nibiru is a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. In Babylonian, Persian, very old Arabic, and some of it is still used today in Arabic. I've actually done the video where you can hear the guy speaking in Arabic, telling you the names of the different planets. And when he comes to Jupiter, he uses two words, Nibiru, and Mustari. Mustari in Arabic is where we get the word mystery. That's why it's mystery schools. It's the mystery of Jupiter. When Jupiter conjuncts Saturn, it appears that he has wings because Saturn's rings point on the outside. You can't see Saturn, you can only see his rings. So it appears that Jupiter is usurping the crown of Saturn. And that is literally what's going on this planet. That's what's going on now. It happens as above, so below. So don't buy into the propaganda. If what you're seeing evokes an emotional response in you, 9 times out of 10 or 99.9 times out of 10, it is propaganda. There's a deeper meaning. You must put aside the emotion, the Mars, and look purely at the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. Now in 2020, when we have a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, Pluto's going to be there. And Pluto already represents the subconscious mind. Uranus and Pluto are planets of massive transformation. Uranus works with Jupiter in the material world. Pluto works for transformation and with Saturn in the spiritual world, things that are not tangible, hence the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind works all in symbology. It works in shapes and symbols, not in words that we understand. That's why these Nibiru symbols, this is something that, this is a Pluto thing, because it's symbology. And he's the smallest one. He's so far away, he's hidden. We can't see him because he's in our subconscious mind. Now, myself, everything goes back to my childhood. They told us all of this when we were children. We just did not understand what we were hearing. Let me see if I can find the right one. Yeah, 2020. Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto. People are starting to write a lot of books about this. Now, I was screaming about this before 2012. In 2012, I saw nothing spectacular in the heavens. What I saw was going to happen 8 years later on the very day. On December 21st, 2020, not 2012. And that's 8 years. That's a symbol of infinity. And so they put infinity in it. They lied to us. We were deceived. Number one, they based all of that crap on the Mayan calendar. That's not even Mayan. It's Aztec. And anybody that took a good look at it long enough would realize that it's not Mayan at all. Just the symbols themselves make a bold statement. And then there's, where is the one I want to show you, because this is what hits home with me when you talk about Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. Here we go. Schoolhouse Rock. Conjunction, junction, what's that function? They're hooking up. They're telling you. That damn song literally is telling you about a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. But it's also talking about grammar. And this is how all this started for me. For me, it started with language and understanding the true meanings of words and grammar. In the beginning was the word, was the verb. It shows action, talking about Capricorn, the constellation of doing, of letting, creation, creator. So we have this conjunction, junction. What's your function? The adversary is the advertiser. he adds a verse. Then you have the adjective. These are all things literally explaining how our language came to be. It grows, it manifests. The languages we use today are very different from the ancient languages. English is very different from any language around the world. All of the other languages put the verb before the subject. We put the subject before the verb. The verb shows action. It should come first. We don't do that. And it doesn't actually make sense to me because, example, I walk into a room full of people and I say, will you go to the store for me? And everybody looks at me. And then I say, John, will you go to the store for me? Subject, John. So I'm addressing everybody's hearing me before I zone in on that one person. We don't do that in English. In English, we walk into a room and we say, John. Everybody might turn and look, but we're talking at John. We direct who we're talking to until we tell them what. John, will you go to the store? It's inverted. They changed places. Okay? And it's, instead of conjunction, it's confusion. To put two together, to fuse together, is confusion. It's confusion. Let me hit this at you a different way. I love Jim Henson. Sesame Street told us everything. Jim Henson was incredible. His movies, even his Muppets, they weren't talking to children. They were talking to adults. He did, if any of you have seen The Cube, Hypercube, Cube 1, Cube 2, Cube 3, Jim Henson wrote the original Cube. And he did it in a very childlike manner. If you haven't seen it, I believe it's still on YouTube. Go watch it. The first guy you meet when you get here is named Tim. Tim is time. That would be Saturn. I hate the way they represent these characters, but all of the planets, which are your chakras, come through this room that this man is stuck in, and he knows something's wrong. He's in a cube. So go watch that if you want to understand. Now, my favorite Jim Henson movie was strictly about a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, and it's called The Dark Crystal. If you've never seen this, it's about getting the shard. The shard is missing. Shard is an encoded word. We've talked about this. That letter S is a symbol, and it's about knowledge. So he's telling you about the hard knowledge, the knowledge that's hard to get. It's been taken out. It's missing. The shard is missing. It has to be put back. Now we have these two different sets of characters in here, and they represent the two different ones. You have the Saturnalian, this guy here, and then the Jupiterian, this guy here. They're all about power, flesh, empire, control, remaining in control. These guys are about inner development, spirituality, morals. This is Saturn here. Now, when one of these dies, the other one goes with it, because they're really one. Saturn and Jupiter are really one when the two become one. When the two become one. And when Saturn and Jupiter meets, these two become one. Saturn and Jupiter also represent government and state. And this country is founded on a Saturn-Jupiter non-conjunction, separation of church and state. You divide to conquer. We think the separation of church and state is a great thing. We're in confusion. We are divided. We need a conjunction junction to learn that function. So you got some homework to do. You need to go back and rethink everything Jim Henson ever did. because he wasn't making stuff for children. And if you remember Sesame Street, then you already have the answers to all of your questions, because we were told as children. We just did not understand what we were being told. Are any of you seeing what I'm telling you here? This particular Saturn-Jupiter conjunction is very important because it happens in Saturn's house of manifestation. It happens in the constellation of the Creator. Now, in tropical astrology, they got this going down in Aquarius, which really makes no difference because Saturn rules both of those houses. The only difference it makes is Capricorn is the sign of the Creator and manifestation. It's feminine, so it's creative. It brings forth life. And Saturn's already Kabbalistically in control for the next 36 years. We're moving into an age of Saturn. Now we're going to get a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in Saturn's house. This is like a trifecta for Saturn. It's a win-win-win situation. And a lot of us are starting to wake up to what's been told to us over here in the Twin Speaks. Remember that? The Twin Speaks. I've done these videos. I've gone through all of this wordplay that if you learn alchemical language or alchemical astrology, it all makes sense. The Twin Speaks because we have a twin. They call it our higher self. And this is, it's just incredible. I really couldn't stand Twin Peaks when it came on. I thought it was the dumbest thing. Here we go. The Twin Speaks. See how they're showing you two sides? You've got to get past the profane. All of this propaganda that's being shoved in your face right now, like aliens. Aliens didn't give us technology. Number one, we are the aliens, but we came here a long, long, long time ago. We do not evolve. We mutate. We transmutate. We are becoming gods. That's what alchemy is all about. Turning lead to gold, Saturn to the sun, the philosopher's stone, and apotheosis. So we are becoming. But there are, just like Saturn and Jupiter, there are two of us. Our fleshly body and our spiritual body. Those two different representations that, to me, Jim Henson made very clear as to who was who and what it really meant. And this is one of the deepest secrets that they've kept from us. Is when you, like I said, Saturn is about spiritual. He gives the breath of life. Jupiter is all about flesh, empire, power. The flesh is afraid. The flesh is needy. It wants. It's needy. But we tend to demonize Saturn. It's demonizing the spirit. You're demonizing yourself. I hope this helps some of you to understand better what a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction is, the propaganda behind it, the hidden esoteric meanings, and what its true purpose is. Now, both of these guys, the good guys and the bad guys in the Dark Crystal, they know what time it is. They're trying to get together before this happens. They have to return the shard, the missing piece, the dark crystal. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. And then you will understand this conjunction that's coming up much better. I think that, in my opinion, looking back, they tried to play this card 40 years ago because they swap every 20 years. Saturn will be in power, Jupiter will be in power. Saturn will be in power, Jupiter will be in power. So we repeat these cycles over and over again. And each time the variations are the constellations and the other planets involved. To me, Twin Peaks was definitely about 2020 because of the Pluto representation there. The changing of the ages represented there. And myself, I'll probably go back and watch both of these again before this Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. Because every time I do, I pick up on more information, more secrets that are being told and revealed. It's just you don't know what you're hearing. You're too busy with the storyline. You're too busy with the characters. You're too busy with the sex or innuendos or whatever's in there. But you're not really hearing what's really being told in this story. So I would like everybody to go back and watch all of this. You've got a year and a half left now, a little over a year and a half, to learn about all of this. And this is perfect timing because Saturn is currently in Sagittarius with Pluto, straightening out all these ideologies, getting rid of the profane, getting rid of the propaganda and the hype. There's nothing new under the sun. These lies have been around from the beginning, but now we can recognize them as untruths or half-truths. A half-truth is still a lie. And we need the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and that's what Aquarius is all about. There's so much I could say about Aquarius and Capricorn being one sign because of Saturn. It's talked about in every religious book. It's that goat with the one horn between its eyes that comes from the west and covers the whole world. We've been pulled to the pit and altered in our churches because they're run by Jupiter and they're supposed to be run by Saturn. We have the moralistic leaders running our government. We have Jupiterians running both sides. That they're in each other's pockets. They're one entity. They're conjunction junction. They got their function, but it's up. It really is. The gig's up. More and more people are starting to not just wake up. We can wake up. And a lot of time, most of the time when people wake up, they're in confusion. Where am I? What am I doing here? What's going on? Give me a minute. I'm not awake yet. So waking up doesn't give you the answers to shit other than you came out of a dream. There's still much, much work to be done. And it's personal work this time. Nobody can do this work for you but you. And it's time to go in and clean freaking house in your subconscious mind, Twin Peaks. Clean it out. Because Saturn's in Jupiter's house right now, making sure with Pluto that those ideologies, those belief systems, philosophies are what's not serving you, what's not real, what's in confusion is done away with. Now, when these go down, like I said, this happens about every 20 years. This time, very significant, because it's in the house of government, military, education. That's Capricorn. All of these represent civil service, or service to others, service to the whole. And you got to get rid of the old way of thinking before you can begin the new way of thinking. We have to release the profane. We have to release or bring the two together. You have to bring the two together. You have to see both storylines going on. These two always become one. They are one. the spirit and the flesh. How many of you have seen this? How many of you remember it? It is a love story. A great magical love story. And it's always, just like in The Hobbit, the least, the most inconspicuous, the character that nobody ever thought could get the job done becomes the hero. He's on the hero's journey. Secrets are revealed. Everything in the heavens right now are talking about this movie. Mars in Scorpio, coming into Sagittarius, then going to move into Capricorn. Saturn and Pluto in Sagittarius, then moving into Capricorn when Saturn and Jupiter meet. This is Saturn, this is Jupiter. Do you see the difference? But they are one being. He's got the feminine swirls. But this guy has been running the whole world. They run everything. They're very greedy. They fight with each other over power. Before one's dead, this is the Pope. This is like the Pope. They've convinced you that Saturn is Satan. They've convinced you that Nibiru is Planet X and aliens are coming to rule us. The only aliens are the Jupiterians, and they all come from Europe, and they've been ruling this place for the last 2,000 years. Their time is up. Ding, 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 ding. Time up. Time's up. It's over, Rover. Red Rover needs to come on over because it's over, Rover. Their time is up. And the baton will pass to the next generation, the next world age, the next constellation. And it's something we've never seen on this. It's been talked about and talked about and talked about in every religion, the golden age, that something new is fixing to be created that's never happened on this planet. We're going to come out of this slave system over here that empires build. These are empires. Empire is a word that comes directly from Jupiter. Jupiter means expansion. The country Spain, España, expansion. And literally, other than English, Spanish is the most spoken language on this planet. You have three: English, Arabic, and Spanish. The Chinese dialects are up there, but they're like some of the other languages. They're broken up into so many different dialects. But as far as population, you're, again, English and Spanish, Saturn, Jupiter. I don't even, everything, empire. Empire strikes back. In Capricorn, there's two sets of stars and they're called Digetta or Algeti. It's the Jedi. And it translates to the lucky ones of the slaughter. And it is the story of Anakin Skywalker walking into the Jedi temple and killing the younglings. They're kids. They're the lucky ones of the slaughter. Can you see the esoteric meaning behind it? They go in and kill the kid. The Arabs slaughter the goat. The Jews sacrifice the sheep. Everybody's sacrificing somebody to pay for their sins. This is the guy we need to be. Full of wisdom. Very passive. Not looking for self, but for the whole, for others. Everything Aquarius is about. Everything Saturn is about. Saturn is the Grim Reaper. Don't fear the Reaper. Don't fear the Reaper. That's the harvest. We've been playing this game for a long, long time. because of these guys right over here. These guys right here took control when the last age of Sagittarius rose. They are the illuminated ones, right? They've got all the knowledge. They know. And they don't want that shard, that hard, dark crystal put back, because they know it's over for them at that point. Those hard sayings, they don't want it. They're terrified. Jupiter, the church, and all of this whole world age is terrified. And that's why they put out the propaganda. And that's why they're doping everybody with the government-issued heroin. That's why they do it all. Because they're afraid. They live in fear. These guys don't. They face it head on. They know exactly what's coming down the pipe. All right, if that doesn't explain the Saturn and Jupiter conjunction in 2020, I don't know what does. I don't know any other way to explain it than this. This is the way I came to understand it. Sesame Street, Jim Henson, is one of my heroes, because I literally learned to read before I started school because of Sesame Street. Bert and Ernie were my friends. My favorite was Grover, the odd character, but he was just always so happy. I wanted to be the Grover character. And I could see all of these different characters around me, in my family, and people at school, just in people in general. And now that I'm older and I've learned alchemy, I realize what they truly represent is the differences in me. Our chakras, we have all of them. You can't hate Mars and Jupiter. It's part of you. It's part of you. But when they conjunct, when the two become one, then we have true balance. But if these two cannot meld together, this is what we get. And it ain't going to be pretty, because the percentage of people that are actually awake to the truth are awake to another nightmare. This is why the Pluto is so important in this, because it being a sign of manifestation, you're in 2020, you're going to manifest what's in your subconscious mind. And if you've got unresolved issues, then you're going to have hell for the next 20 years. You need to put aside hate, anger, vengeance. This is going to be like an AA 12-step program, another hero's journey. You got to make amends. You have to let go of anger, hate, resentment, blaming everybody. You got to stand up and take responsibility. You got to do not what these guys are doing, but what these guys are doing. And decide which one. And understand, these understand the two have to become one. These don't want to share power with anybody. Watch it, and then watch it again, and then watch it again. Take notes. Remember these words I've said to you. Understanding what's really fixing to happen. And why this one is more important than any Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in a very long time. I haven't even calculated it up, but I could probably look at Stellarium and go back and do it. But to have a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in Capricorn with Pluto there is a really big deal. And at the same time, on the winter solstice, I don't know if that's ever happened. And then at the same time, you have the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. In Capricorn, you have a Sun-Mercury conjunction in Sagittarius. Watch this. It's more than what we think. Oops. In palmistry, Jupiter's the first finger. Mars is the thumb. Jupiter is the first finger. Saturn is the middle finger. The Sun is the ring finger, and Mercury is the little finger. We're going to have a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction and a Mercury-Sun conjunction. This is going to happen in 2020. What do you think about that? And we have the opportunity to live long and prosper, or to live short in poverty. And prosper is not always monetary. You can spiritually prosper. He has, as Vulcan here, he represents Mars. But he's conquered his emotions. He's Mars in Capricorn, or Mars in Scorpio. He's not Mars in Aries. Each one has a different aspect. But this is palmistry. And then, see what they did with the hand sign right here? They gave you the feminine symbol. Pay close attention to it all, because it's all connected. It's all in our hands. Our future's in our hands. That's literal. That's not a figure of speech. We've been told it is, but we've been told a lot of shit, hadn't we? Especially this shit. And they're still playing this card. And a lot of people are going to wake up. Everybody's going to wake up. Some to everlasting life when the two become one, or to condemnation. You'll wake up to condemnation. The Bible is an astrology book, and it's full of portenses. But if you don't, we have not been taught to read. We've been taught exactly the opposite. How to not read. That's why they spent 12 years fucking our heads up. Confusing us. Separating us. Keeping us separate from ourselves. We are a divided person. But when Saturn and Jupiter come together, this is our time. This is our moment. This is our opportunity to turn things around, to get that dark shard and set things right for the future, for the next generation. And do you remember what happens at the end? Well, if you don't, I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to go watch it again. This movie's fixing to get a bump. If your kids have seen it, ask them. It's quite an interesting tale. But these guys up here are so into it, they literally live in the observatory where it all goes down. Now you know what the Vatican is. It's an observatory. All the old ancient ruins, Machu Picchu, observatory. Haran in Persia, observatory. All of, even the pyramids they're about observatory. They're marking the stars as above, so below. And it's all over the world. People ask me, how do you know that North America and South America are Aquarius and Capricorn? Because the builders left it there for us to find. South America has the temple of the sun and the moon, and all of the other temples as well. All of the heavens are represented in South America. It's Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, Scorpio, and Libra, that hidden wisdom of the heavens. That bronzed serpent on the pole can be found in South America. From Central America down, actually. And North America, how do I represent that with Capricorn? Because the Native Americans built the earth mounds. That was, and the serpent. They have the circle, the serpent, and the earth mounds. The Great Pyramid, representing the age of Earth in Taurus. North America represents, but that was with Venus as Isis. Venus used to be represented in South America as Lucifer, that fiery bronzed serpent on the pole. But they've made you terrified of Lucifer. They've demonized Saturn. They've gone through all this, and you see what these guys do, right? How they feed off of others. You want to really learn what's going on in the Vatican and what's going on with the Jupiterians and the Europeans? They feed off of every country in the world. They've got their hooks in it with their monetary systems and their religious systems and their belief systems. And this is who they are. But all of this can change. And this is our opportunity to do it. 2020. December 21st, 2012. The winter solstice in the house of Saturn. While the Sun and Mercury are in Jupiter's house, conjunct. And we have the opportunity to live long and prosper. Or if you can't get a grip on the little guy inside, then you're going to manifest your nightmares. And the next 20 years for you is going to be pure hell on earth. It can be heaven or it can be hell. It is your choice. We need to pull the two together. And the twin speaks. It's about pig Latin. You win the T. Move the T to the end. You win the zodiac when the twin speaks. And it all becomes clear. A lot of you have gotten your crosses, your natal charts. And we've talked about how this affects you. Some of you it affects very personally. 2 generations, those born with Pluto in Leo, your time is now. Those of you born with Pluto in Virgo, 2020 is your day. That is the time for your generation. This is when you have to stand up. Those of us with Pluto in fire, we're doing our job right now. I'm doing it. I'm doing it right now. I'm tearing out the old ideologies to make way for something new. But the manifestation happens of the generation with Pluto in Virgo. Jeffrey Wolf Green thought it so important, it's the only book he wrote. It was so important to him. Who is Jeffrey Wolf Green? He was in Vietnam and came out real disillusioned. So he decided to become a priest, and he joined this monastery. And then he finds out about astrology, and he drops out of the priesthood at the advice of one of his priests, and he becomes an astrologer. And what he discovered was the journey of the soul, having to do with Pluto. Remember, Pluto works with Saturn in the non-material world, the journey of the soul, and our subconscious mind. In alchemy, Pluto moves from fire to fire, from earth to earth, from water to water. Well, those born with Pluto in Virgo, earth, mutable earth, fixing to go to cardinal earth, the Most High. Y'all got the power. You're just primed, but you need to do your work now while Saturn is still in Sagittarius. You need to do your work, merging the two. Stop feeding off of others, the energy of others. All of this needs to be learned. That dark hidden saying, that shard. To me, this is Lucifer. What's the missing piece? It's that serpent. They've lied to us. This is the piece that's missing. It's Libra. It's Quetzalcoatl. And they give it to us in scary form to make us afraid. So you won't look. What do we do when something scares us? We close our eyes. Don't look. Don't look, Ethel. All right, that's what I got to say about 2020 conjunction and my understanding of it. If you got any questions, put them below. I feel like I've answered them all, but, and my advice again, go watch Twin Peaks and go watch The Dark Crystal. And if you really want to know, go look at all of Jim Henson's work, especially The Cube. He did it back in the 70s, long before this psychobabble military crap they gave us. He put it very clean and simple. It couldn't have been more easy to understand. If you understand that every character that walks into that room represents a planet and a chakra that are all inside of you. All right, Saturn-Jupiter conjunction 2020. Nibiru's coming